10-year-old Billy Gearhart wrote fan letters to an array of celebrities. Everyone from Mr. Rogers to Donald Rumsfeld to Charles Manson were included. Almost all of these celebrities responded back to Billy with personalized letters. At first glance, this may seem like nothing more than a celebrity-obsessed child reaching out to a few of his heroes. The catch? 10-year-old Billy lied. He was actually 30-something-year-old performance artist William Gearhart, posing as a 10-year-old version of himself. His letters were written with scribbled handwriting and included a picture of Gearhart as a 10-year-old boy. Radar magazine heard about Billy's collection of letters and commissioned him to write even more letters for their May-June 2008 issue. Because of the many unabashed responses, they are exemplary of our overbelief in children, or the perception of children, to manipulate our trust. Since this allows the use of innocence to be used as a tool for manipulation, it begs the question, does our belief in those with less power make us vulnerable to them? In order to answer this question, we turn to Power Struggles and Their Relevance to Apparent Honesty by George Newman, first published in the Journal for Children and Family Communication Studies from January 2009. Now this model is perfect because Newman specifically analyzes how innocence communicates truthfulness. So first, we'll examine Newman's model. Then we'll apply it to the letters of Billy Gearhart. And finally, we'll examine some implications of reduced power honesty perceptions. Now Newman's model centers on the basic overarching theme that trust is given to those with less power because of a perceived lack of hidden agenda. His study focuses primarily on children because, as Newman puts it, there is no better control group with less power and obvious hidden agenda. His study was conducted using 84 children, aged 7 to 11, by asking half of them to lie to 23 adults during the experiment, and the other half to speak only the truth. Now, the conditions needed in order for trust to be given to those with less power must meet three basic criteria. Differences in power status. Power must evoke change, and powerlessness as credibility. Let's examine these, beginning first with differences in power status. Now, Newman states that there must be different power levels at play between two participants of a given event. He cites an earlier theory by Michel Foucault, which states that power is unavoidable and part of every relationship. Newman notes that this power could come in the form of class, race, age, gender, job title, or a multitude of other spoken or unspoken powers. Newman's second tenet, power must evoke change. The participant in power must be called upon to effect change upon the participant with less power. Newman discovered during his experiment that when children asked questions of the adults became far less suspicious of the truthfulness of the child. Instead, they became so focused on their own responses back to the children that almost none of them suspected the children of lying. Newman's third tenet, powerlessness as credibility, which essentially means that the participant with less power is also perceived as having less of a reason for manipulation, thereby allowing them the opportunity to be believed. Here again, Newman cites an earlier study, this one by the University of Wisconsin, titled "What is Beautiful is Good," otherwise known as the halo effect, which essentially equates youthfulness with perceived credibility. Now that we've examined Newman's model, we can apply it to the letters of Billy Gearhart. After reaching out to creator of Hustler magazine, Larry Flint, little Billy asked the question if there might be a Hustler for Kids magazine, of which his parents would approve. Larry Flint responded with, "Hang in there, Billy, you'll be 18 before you know it. Until then, you should read the Sears Robot catalog." This letter demonstrates the obvious power roles at play between little Billy and Larry Flint. Flint even makes reference to the obvious age difference between the two. And celebrities are not only older, but differ in terms of class and job title. Newman's second tenet, power must evoke change. Quite possibly, one of the most disturbing of all of Billy's letters is his correspondence with serial killer Richard Ramirez, otherwise known as the Night Stalker, who terrorized Los Angeles during the 1980s. Little Billy wrote a letter asking if he should drop out of school at the age of 10. The Night Stalker replied, "I'm personalized stationery," telling Billy he should stay in school, and also asking him for additional information and pictures of who he thought was a 10-year-old boy. This perversely demonstrates the second of Newman's tenets. Newman's third tenet, powerlessness as credibility. In a letter to California's governor, little Billy writes, "Dear Governor Schwarzenegger, today I was sent home early from school for pinching Bonnie Euchre's butt. My friend Eddie said you do this all the time, and I should write you to get my teacher, Mrs. Bouchal, fired. Please write back and send a cool picture." 2 weeks later, little Billy was the proud owner of an autographed picture of California's governor. Because Schwarzenegger did not understand that little Billy had a hidden agenda, this demonstrates the third of Newman's tenets. Now that we've examined Newman's model and applied it to the letters of Billy Gearhart, we can return to our original research question. Does our belief in those with less power make us vulnerable to them? Clearly, the answer is yes. And this is seen in two ways. First, the use of powerlessness as a leverage for trust, and second, the use of innocence as a tool for manipulation. So first, the use of powerlessness as a leverage for trust. In 1994, Emily Rosa set a Guinness World Record by becoming the youngest person to have a paper published in a peer-reviewed medical journal, the Journal of American Medical Association. At age 9, she gathered together 21 touch therapy practitioners and essentially debunked the process by proving that touch therapists could not sense a person's aura. In an episode from September 26, 2003 of Penn and Teller's Bullshit, Rosa stated that she was able to get together so many touch therapists because she was only 9. She insists that they agreed to do her study because they didn't believe that she held any sort of hidden agenda, thereby using her powerlessness as a leverage for trust. Second, the use of innocence as a tool for manipulation can be best seen through such international events, such as current war tactics. In David Rosen's 2005 book, Armies of the Youth, he details the extent to which terrorist organizations, such as Al-Qaeda, are now recruiting children as their secret weapon. He goes on to state that this is in spite of the fact that many American soldiers see children as the least likely potential threat. According to a 2009 issuance by ReliefWeb, a website devoted to the coordination of humanitarian affairs, children are being recruited as soldiers all across Africa, especially in areas such as Mogadishu and Darfur. But this is not only limited to children. Drug cartels are also aware of the innocence as a tool for manipulation tactic, as they frequently use females as drug-running mules since they are less suspected by airport authorities. We cannot ignore these real-life examples of how those with less power are being exploited. In short, innocence is being used as a weapon. Today, we examined George Newman's model. We applied it to the letters of Billy Gearhart, and we examined some implications of reduced power honesty perceptions. But quite possibly, the best example of power honesty is evident in this very speech. In fact, the model used for this speech, Power Struggles and Their Relevance to Apparent Honesty, was not written by George Newman. Instead, it was written by me. Now, the power struggles at play in this speech follow those set out in the model itself. Specifically, Tenet 1 states there must be differences in power status. This is evident here as you, who are judging this speech, are in control of a round to which I have composed myself. Second, you have been asked to evoke change by filling out these ballots and thereby demonstrating the second of these tenets. The third tenet can also be illustrated by having written a model myself. Because I am still in college and in that of community college, I'm perceived as less likely to have written a model myself. In the end, we can see that not only through the letters of Little Billy, but also through this very speech, the theory of innocence being used as a tool for manipulation holds true. The implications of this are such that not only can we be taken advantage of by those we least suspect, but this might be, quite possibly, one of the easiest breaches of trust. Now, I admit to manipulating these power tactics in order to achieve manipulation, but I'm not an advocate of the use of manipulation as a tool in and of itself. Instead, it's the awareness of these manipulations and of our own power roles which helps strengthen our communication.